everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kelsey and this is Essentially Booked. And today's video is going to be an assessment of my physical shelves, of which I have 3 shelves in my house essentially. And then I'm also going to build a TBR cart. So I keep a TBR cart by my reading chair. And generally how I set up my TBR cart is my top shelf is library books and then the books that I've specifically pulled for what I want to read in the month. And then this second shelf becomes other books I want to prioritize throughout the year, maybe other reading challenges, maybe books I want to read in the following month. It's kind of an overflow, but it's kind of more dedicated. And then the bottom shelf, which my stand is not the greatest, usually is my Bible study resources, but I'm thinking I might move those to a different place. My TBR cart first, and then we'll go from there as far as walking around my house, and I'll walk you through how I set up my shelves. And I'm also going to take kind of an accounting of all of the books that I own to see where I'm at. And then my hopes is that as I build this channel, so next year, I will do another accounting of my shelves and see how many books I have that are unread. As I'm doing that, I'm actually going to be logging everything into a spreadsheet and trying to keep up on it better than I did last year, because last year I did not keep up on my spreadsheet very well. And I would like to just have better stats to see how many books I own, how many I've read, how am I doing on reading my owned books. And that's kind of going to be the point of this video, is to just assess where I'm at so that in the future I know if I've made progress or not. So I will get started first with building my TBR cart. This is more just to organize and clean up my house a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so like I said, I always put the library books that I have checked out on here first. I have a few books on my bedstand, so I'm not going to go grab those. But right now I have Lore Olympus checked out, and then I have this Misdemeanor. It was recommended by Fabled, and then the latest in the Well Met series. So my library books checked out are actually pretty low right now, which is good for me. Normally I have a ton out. I keep bookmarks and stuff in here too, so you might hear me shuffling around a bit. I keep books that I'm currently reading on this shelf, and also like the ones that I'm prioritizing this month. So this month is January and I'm prioritizing advanced review copies of books. And so these are books I've gotten from publishers, and while they might not be actually like published in 2023, there could be ones from the past. I'm just, again, trying to be more intentional with that. So right now I'm reading The Making of Biblical Womanhood with a church group. So that goes on my top shelf. And then I pulled all my stacks, and now I'm like, ooh, we'll pull the ARCs first that I have prioritized. So I'm doing okay on my ARCs. I've read more NetGalley this month, but I'm just gonna add those books that I pulled in my monthly TBR. You guys have seen these already. I don't think you saw Beyond That the Sea, but I got this from Celadon. So then I've got Lenora Bell's The Duke Most Wicked, and then Agatha Christie's Sad Cypress are other books I'd like to get to this month. Okay, so then the rest of this shelf will be kind of books that I like to prioritize, or maybe I'm doing slow but steady, which means I'm reading a little bit at a time. So those two are Mary Oliver's Devotions, and then Stamped from the Beginning. I'm just slowly reading this. And then I want to get to The Madness of Crowds as soon as possible so that I can read the newest Louise Penny. I want to read The House in Cerulean Sea. I keep moving this from month to month, but I'm going to throw this on this top shelf too as one that I'd like to prioritize. And so this cart just sits next to my reading chair, so it's something I can draw from. So then the next shelf is going to be books I've pulled for other TBRs, or for ones I wanted to read and didn't get to in previous months. I have a girls' weekend coming up. Okay, so I have a girls' weekend coming up with my book club where we're renting a cabin, and we do a PowerPoint night, so you have to present randomly on a topic. This year though, one of my friends bought us a bunch of really cheap romance books that were ridiculous sounding, and we have to give a book report. So I have this. It should probably like go right here because I need to read it soon. This one is The Spy Who Loved Him. So we'll see. That'll be really fun. And then I put Wintering as just a nonfiction I'd like to get to eventually. Love Light Farms I just recently acquired because everybody loves it. I might actually put this downstairs because I want to read this more towards the winter. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And then I've got The Dearly Beloved, another one I really want to get to. Arsonist City was a past book club pick, and so was The Reading List. I started this in December and then had to return it to the library, so this one I'll probably read sooner rather than later. And then Throne of Glass, Ninth House, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Unsettling Truths is one too that I wanted to read for my 12 books by 12 friends. So I'm gonna go grab my other stack. Fair Play, I'm actually gonna go put this on my nightstand because I've already started it and I tend to read it right before bed. I've got Recursion, which is the 12 books recommended by 12 friends, as well as Take My Hand. And then I just pulled a few book of the months that I want to get to. So Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent, Queenie, I don't know if I'll get this in here, and then Behold the Dreamers. Might have to go on the lower shelf. And then on my lower shelf, I just have some Bible studies, like resources that I keep next to me. So I will just shove those on there, but that's my TBR cart. And it will go over here. Don't mind the mess. Ooh, you're getting a nice little tour of my house. So it'll go into my little reading nook corner. Future Kelsey is popping in between my TBR cart and my bookshelf assessment to talk about how I had book club last night and we went out to eat, and then we went and checked out a new bookstore in town. And I have some B-roll that I'm just gonna throw in here because I don't really have any place to put it elsewhere. Pretty fun. I got Migration, so I actually added one book to my total that's not accounted for, but here we are. So enjoy. Okay, it's a new day, so I'm filming more. And as I talked about yesterday, I was going to do an audit of my bookshelves and just kind of walk you guys through like a bookshelf tour, but also then analyze what I still need to read, how many books are unread still. I'm going through my probably most curated bookshelf. This sits in my office and it's like a background for team calls through work and stuff. So on this shelf, I have classics, some of my like most beloved series and most beloved books. And then there are a few unread books in here too. So I'm gonna reposition this camera to better show my shelves, but this is that shelf for now. So my son was home with me today. Actually, I'm gonna move this. Okay, just to have a better setup. I just moved my reading chair. So my son was home with me today and he was playing with my ring light and the stand and he like knocked the top off, and so I had to re-screw it on, and it's not how I'm used to it. So I'm gonna be playing with this for a while. As I said, up here is my classics bookshelf, and there's 14 books on that shelf that I haven't read, but these have like my Jane Austens, my Wendell Berry. It has my Emily of New Moon trilogy, which I want to read this year. That's one of those series. I still have a few works of Jane Austen I need to read. And then if you watch some of my videos from last year, I discovered Wendell Berry last year and love him. So I'm trying to own the Port Williams membership. I think there's like 10 books in the series. I have 4 of them. That's not a bad shelf. Like, they're also pretty books, so 14 books on that shelf that I haven't read. Then this next shelf is some favorites and then series that I adore. So, of course, the A Court of Thorn and Roses series is here of the ones that I have. Still super annoyed that they rebranded the series because I like the old branding better. I don't like the neon colors in the new one, but it is what it is. And then I have the Crescent City series, and a few unreads that I have here is The Seventh Queen. The Seventh Queen and the Frozen Crown. It's a duology. By Greta Kelly. It looks really good. It's the Warrior Witch duology. I think I got these through William Morrow, but they're Harper Voyager books. So that's just up here because they were series and I just needed a spot on my shelf. Then I have some of my favorite books on this shelf too. So on that shelf, there's only 2 unread books, which brings my total of unread books on this shelf up to 16. So now we'll go down another shelf. This is my Louise Penny shelf, and then I have some Outlander books and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. On this shelf, there's 2 books I haven't read, which are the 2 latest in the Louise Penny series. So that brings me up to 18. And then we're going to decrease this. So I will start the video. Okay, I'm gonna kneel. I'm such a bad influencer or YouTuber. I don't know. I'm just awkward. So actually, let's do, there's 2 more shelves on this shelf. It is Friday and my brain is so fried. So with that being said, the bottom shelf is just my illustrated Harry Potter books. So I've read all those. Those don't count. So I am up to 18 books on the shelf that I haven't read. If you think that's good, just wait till we get downstairs because it's not good. One of my friends made me this really cool, we did like a book club, book exchange type thing. And this is to put your books on, like when they're open. I really love it. Okay, so this shelf has more of my favorite books of all time. And then some just like ARCs and books I've recently received that I haven't found a place for yet. And then just some unread books. So on this shelf, I have I have 15 books on this shelf. So the total unread books on this shelf are 33. So I have 33 unread books on this shelf. And then in my book cart, I'm gonna add the numbers here right now just because I'm thinking about it. And so my book cart that I did, so if I'm at 30, there's 57 total books in this room that I have not read. So 57 total books in this room that I have not read. Cool. Okay, so this is a bookshelf that you won't see a lot just because of where it is in my house. But this is my romance bookshelf. Romance and classics and some beloved books. Kind of similar to upstairs, except I do just have my mass market romances on here. So I'm gonna count and see how many books are on here that I haven't read. So obviously I've got my romance book club books here. So on this top shelf, there's just 9 mass markets that I haven't read, which is pretty good. A lot of these are Lisa Kleypas and Sarah McLean, which, you know, they're like my favorite romance authors by far. So 8. And then on here is a little mixture of like books that I have and have not read, but there's 18 on this one that I haven't read. So 18 plus 8, 26. I'm so bad at math. And then down here, I've read every single book. So there's 26 books on this shelf that I have not read. That's, again, pretty good. But 26 plus 50 something, I'll do all the math at the end once I've been editing and thinking about this. All right, so this is my basement built-in, and this is my like pride and joy of all my books and plants and where we spend a lot of time. This will be eye-opening to say the least as to how many books I have unread. But basically I have these sorted by color except for my book of the month. And then I have a shelf that's like reading challenge-ish, I would say, or just books that I've wanted to get to at some point or another. So I'm going to actually put this in time lapse because counting it will take me a little bit. And then I'll come back and talk about what I've noticed. Okay, 226 unread books on that shelf. 55 of them are book of the month, and so that's nice because I will be reading those at least, so it'll drop under 200, but no, because then I've got other numbers that I need to math. Okay, so yeah, I will figure out my total number and then kind of talk about some reading goals and some plans that I have for this year. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I added up everything on my shelves to see how many were unread, and the number is 309, which is a lot. I know I had over 300 books last year too, so I think I'm pretty even, netting 0, like-ish. But I do want to read that down a lot. So I don't think it's realistic for me to say I would read half of these this year. I think it's more realistic to try to aim for like 75 to 100 on my own books. I read 134 books last year, so that's probably a stretch, but if I'm trying to read at least 55 of my book of the month books, and then knowing that I will also read physically owned books too, I'm gonna aim for 100, like to get that in the 200s. And I went through all these books and counted them, but I was also checking, and I did this earlier this week, I was pulling books that, you know, that I'm no longer interested in, that I needed to get rid of, and I just listed those on Pango. Yes, there's a lot of books, there are, but this makes me happy. I'm not really too worried about that. Ways I will be targeting that number is that I'm going to be reading down my book of the month. So I can't re-up book of the month until I read all my book of the month. So that's 55 books, and I do really hope that I stick to that. And then I'm doing different reading challenges, which you saw in one of my earlier videos. I'll put the card up here. But that is going to include the Pop Sugar reading challenge, the Buzzwordathon, Gwen's challenge. So I'm going to try to pull books from my shelf to hit those prompts. I've already done that for the Books and Lala Buzzwordathon. Then if I'm doing any readathons, which I know I will because I love that, I am also going to try to use my unread books on my shelf, and I'm not gonna look for library books. These stats, so 309 unread physical books. I have not even looked at my NetGalleys, my Kindle books, my audiobooks. That's a problem for another year. I'm just gonna happily read those. You know, I am reading a lot of NetGalley of late, and so who knows if the 100 books is reasonable. It's probably not, but I am just going to try to read down my shelves. It will be fine. It's fine. I'm never going to hit this goal. Like, I'm a bookworm. It is what it is. But just going through this is just really nice to know my numbers. And then that way next year I can be like, okay, this is where I started last year. What are we at this year? What is my goal? So thank you for sticking around and watching this. But anyways, let me know how many unread physical books you have in the comments, because I'm curious. And thank you again so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye, everybody.